chair, my chair's like, so it's inching down, I'm not doing anything. Did you get them so some moves without me?
Yes, yeah, and I was gonna tell you, I don't know, I don't remember how big of a swamp we were talking about, I was asking for comments.
One chair. Got the sun one. That's why you took me over here, Mark. I knew, I can't trust you for a second.
I was hoping because that's only my long, I was wishing the compensation. So that nominal $10 of so much. Okay. Yeah, so I
corrected it, they have Bear County in there, there are a couple of other issues.
Did you notice in the footing is wrong?
I didn't notice it. We'll fix all that.
it looked like they clearly taken it from someplace else.
He did, he goes, I can only imagine how many they send out every day. I fixed a couple of other things, but, you know. Yeah, correct.
Yep.
Hey, how are ya?
Thank you very much.
We have extra, so we sit down in it and see.
Hey, Hector. Thank you, sir. You're welcome. Thank you for that.
Of course. Didn't want you to just go through my cables.
I wouldn't step on it.
Mine could be wrong too.
Apple Watches can be wrong.
Never.
My iPhone.
Yeah.
But that.
Sure.
Yeah, I have so much fun with that. Apple Watches.
Well, you know what, that's okay.
That's what that was.
For me, it was.
Of course.
I do have to step over your cables. You're fine. I just need to turn this one on. Yeah. Excuse me. Thank you.
Good evening, directors. As you may notice, President Sabatino is not here this evening. And I also understand Mr. Tiber has to leave early, so your president and vice president will be missing soon. Director Smith, I understand, has volunteered to lead tonight's meeting. Do the directors take any issue with that? Any dissent on that? Okay, with that said, Mr. President, thank you.
Okay, first off, call for roll of directors. Oh, sorry. And all directors are present except for Director Sabatino. So we do have quorum. All right, pledge of allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to just swizzle the agenda slightly, and we're going to take our auditor first for our auditor's report.
Thank you, sir.
These mics to the side of him.
Well, hello. Ooh, well,
Well, we can hear you.
yeah. Hello, I'm Don Allman, CPA, and first off, would like to thank the board of directors for once again choosing my firm to do the audit for Fernbluff MUD. Greatly appreciate the business. I think most people know, but just in case not, I am a former resident of Fernbluff MUD. I did live here from 1998 to 2006. So for any relatively newcomers, back then at Wyoming Springs and Fernbluff, there were cows. There ain't cows there anymore. So it is always just, kind of neat to just come back and see how the old neighborhood's changed. Of course, I need to thank the staff here also. Everyone's great to work with. I mostly bother Debbie and Hector and Janie, and I usually get to call Janie Miller the Super Bowl MVP. This year we haven't had the Super Bowl yet. So I can't call her anybody yet. So Janie is either the Joe Burrow or the Matthew Stafford, or hopefully maybe this year to be Aaron Donald. I'm an old defensive tackle, so hopefully Aaron Donald gets it this year. We'll see. But anyway, so enough of that. I will get on to crunching some numbers for you. You have your report there in front of you on page 5. Your statement of net position, that's basically your balance sheet. So that's the balance sheet for Fernbluff MUD. Your current and other assets, that's going to be all the checking, savings, CDs, investment accounts, basically just any and all bank accounts for Fernbluff. Also the customer accounts receivable for the water, sewer, and sanitation billing. $6,247,269. That is up from the $5,569,752 in the prior year. So that's a little about a $670,000 increase in your current assets. That's always good. Like I said, most of that is an increased cash. Your capital and non-current assets, that's going to be all your fixed assets, things like the water and sewer improvements, the water sewer system, also any buildings, especially all the park improvements. $14,185,339, down from the $14,617,000. Why did it go down? Depreciation. Depreciation for the year on Fernbluff assets is about $635,000. Y'all did add about $250,000, most of that being park improvements. Last year, so your total assets, $20,432,608. That is up from the $20,187,000 in the prior year. So roughly about a $250,000 increase in your total assets. Deferred outflows of resources is basically related to the pension plan that Fernbluff is a member of, so it doesn't really affect the district directly. Current liabilities, that's mostly accounts payable and consumer deposits. Customer deposits for the water service here, $570,000, down slightly from the $598,000. Your long-term liabilities, the only thing there is your pension plan, $926,000, and the pension plan is $68,000. Fernbluff MUD has no leases, loans, or bonds. I have no real debt there at all. So that's definitely a good position to be in. So total liability, $697,000, up from $667,000. Deferred inflows of resources, again, that's a pension number, so it doesn't really affect the district directly, $98,000 up from $45,000. Your net investment and capital assets, that's kind of like the blue book value of your assets, which you see is really high also, since you have no debt against them. $14,182,000, down from the $14,568,000. Restricted is $317,747, and basically, and all that is y'all have $278,000 restricted for park and capital improvements, and then $39,000 for capital projects. So y'all don't have any restricted debt service at all, which is good. Unrestricted, so that's free and clear, can be spent however the board of directors so choose. $5,174,000, up from the $4,586,000. So you're up over $500,000 in your unrestricted net position. Again, a really good number. So total net position is $19,674,000, up from the $19,473,000. About a $200,000 increase. Your next page, page 6, your statement of activities, government audit for profit and loss or income statement. So this is the income statement for Fernbluff MUD. Property tax revenues, $1,874,000, down from $2,666,724. About almost $800,000 decrease there. What happened? No interest in sinking fund anymore. So, y'all don't have any debt, so y'all didn't get any property taxes for that debt. So that's the reason for the decrease there. Water, wastewater, and garbage revenues, very consistent, $2,426,000, down just very slightly from the $2,465,000. Your other revenues, $41,000, down slightly from $69,000. Total revenues for the year, $4,341,800, down slightly from the, down about almost, $860,000 from the $5,201,000. All of that just due to no interest in sinking property taxes. Your water, wastewater, and garbage expenses, very consistent here again, $1,792,000, just slightly up from $1,764,000. Other expenses, very consistent too, $1,665,000, just very slight increase from the $1,616,000. Debt service was zero, since I said didn't have any debt. Depreciation, $635,000, up from $620,000. Amortization, that's still being written off from bonds, which are paid off though now, $46,180. So total expenses, $4,140,000, almost the same as prior year, $4,101,000. So your excess, it is positive, so that's net income. Net income was $201,000. Not near like that $1.1 million last year, but again, the big difference was just interest on sinking property taxes. And that's all the numbers I have. Any comments or questions?
Any comments, questions?
I would just like to say, I really appreciate working with you, and
Thank
Debbie
you.
just sings your praises every single year.
Y'all as well. Y'all are still one of my favorite clients.
Is that out of MUD clients or?
All of them. Yeah, and no, actually the MUDs are usually much better than cities, because cities have problems. And we don't, problems aren't fun. Anyway, but it seems like the more successful entities are, the smoother and better it is. Year after year, Fernbluff is right up. Like I said, my two favorites are Fernbluff and Dripping Springs, because it's always good news and everybody's happy, and it's just good, And, so of course, when you have thriving communities with, good directors, good boards, the Dripping Springs has a Chick-fil-A now, so they've really made it.
You're doing well.
Yeah.
All right. John, thank you.
You bet. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Drive carefully.
Just need to give this to Janie because my scanner's broke.
Perfect.
Thank y'all.
you so much.
Thank y'all.
So do we, directors, do we have a motion to approve this audit?
Motion to approve an audit?
Second. Director Stemco makes a motion to approve the audit. Director Barnes has seconded. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand. And unanimously passed. Okay, next we move on to citizens' communications. Reminder that they are limited to 2 minutes only. And we have two residents who'd like to speak. First we'll go with Yoram Given.
Hey, so Jamie, AT&T is working on the street, and I was picking up my son the other day from school, and we literally had to get off the road. We got to do something about it. I mean, it's really dangerous. The kids are walking back from school, and they put these huge cones, and they have equipment there in the middle of the road, basically. So I don't know, maybe you can go talk to them and say during the time that kids are coming back from school, either they stop working or we do something, because again, we literally have to go into the middle of the road. And the last thing we want is for a kid to get hit. And now I don't know, sorry,
You're fine.
I don't know how long they're gonna be working there. I don't know if it's gonna be months or if it's just next week, but it is a hazard. I mean, it's really dangerous for the kids to go. And even, during the nighttime, when I come home, you just have that huge, I don't know, Hector, you know how you call that thing? Whatever they're drilling with, and it just sits there. And then they put cones with another like 2 or 4 feet around. So again, it just becomes like a one-lane road. And especially for the kids, we got to do something during the time in the morning and in the afternoon when they're coming back. If you can take care of that, that'll be great. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Next is Michael Snyder. Reminder, there's a 2 minutes limit.
Good evening. I wanted to speak about off-duty sheriff patrols. And since I've been attending these meetings or watching them, it's always a report. I'm just kind of curious what, I haven't done a lot of research, or I don't know if there's records, but my wife and I, we go for a walk every morning early, and usually there's a sheriff sitting at Brightwater Park. Looks like they're writing reports. Sometimes they get out of the car. I don't know if they're checking the park for graffiti. I don't know. But I'm just wondering, it seems like we're spending, from what I understand, a fairly small fortune on services. If I recall, it's like 80 hours per month. Maybe I'm misquoting that. It might be all great, and I'm definitely not a defund the police person, but I am all for common sense. And I just want to raise the issue of, is this really a benefit to the district? Is it worth what we're spending? Could it be done differently? Does it need to be done at all? Do we need to do an experiment? Try going without, see if there's a crime wave? I mean, I don't know. Has anybody been apprehended because of a patrol in the neighborhood? I don't know. I'm not sure what the purpose is, and I'd just like some answers. Just if it's just done because that's what it's always been like and what the other districts do, that's not really a great answer. So appreciate you considering looking into that. If it's proactive, if it's preventive, something like that, okay, let's talk. But if it's just checking for vandalism that's already happened, do we need a sheriff to do that? If it's somebody had a kegger in the ring belt and we find evidence of that, is that worth paying a sheriff for? I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up to the board for their consideration. Appreciate it very much. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Okay, next on the agenda is items to be removed from the consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be removed?
I have nothing.
I guess we need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
President Barnes, Director Stemco seconds. All in favor? Passes unanimously. Okay, let's see. I think at this point we're going to ask our landscaper to come forward. Howdy.
Thank you, appreciate it. So just a little update, don't need too much of your time tonight. Olson Meadows Park renovation is complete, with the exception for the plant material. We're gonna wait and bring those in until after the danger of last frost. It was late in February last year when we got hit with that ice storm. So want to make sure that we're cognizant of that. So everything's done, everything's ready for plants. It looks really, really good. Kids are already starting to play over there and do their thing. So it's pretty neat to see. And so just know when the plants all come in there, it's going to look really fantastic. So we're excited about that. All of the irrigation in the parks is off right now, just due to everything being completely dormant, especially after last week's ice storm. All of the plant material in the parks has been cut back. The leaves have all dropped that are going to drop until the spring. The grass has gone completely dormant, and we've done one final cut on that, kind of getting ready for spring green up. So we're continuing to treat ant mounds as they pop up with ant bait after the rains, but pretty much all the parks are ready to go for the spring. So we're just waiting on longer days and warmer weather. We are continuing to cut back all the native grass in the green belts in preparation for the wildflower season. I have instructed all of our crews to not cut any wildflowers whatsoever, so any areas that come up in the green belts that have any wildflowers in them, we're gonna make 2 passes on either side of the sidewalk in those areas just to keep it safe for people walking and using the sidewalks there, but we're gonna stay off the wildflowers completely. I know that there was one incident last year where one of my guys cut a patch of wildflowers and it caused a little bit of a stir, so the wildflowers will be cut. Let's see, as soon as the grass starts to green up here in the next month, 6 to 8 weeks, we're gonna go ahead and start putting down the pre-emergence and the fertilizers. That'll all kind of be just weather dependent. We definitely got a good result from the pre-emergent that we put down on all the ball fields last fall. Normally this time of year you see very dormant grass with tufts of green with weeds, winter weeds, and there's none of that, so I'm happy about that. And then as part of your packets, I think we have 2 proposals for you. One is to replenish the kitty cushion mulch in all of the playscape areas for the kids. Seems like we're losing about 8 inches of that a year just through kids playing on it and rain and everything else. The way that stuff is made, it doesn't last a super long time. So if you go more than 1 year without replenishing it, you're gonna be probably over a foot, which kind of creates a little bit of a dangerous situation in those areas. And then also over at Fernbluff Park, along the sidewalk that runs along the very deep drainage ditch there's a lot of erosion that has happened over the years, and it's exposed some irrigation piping there, and also created a little bit of an unsafe condition where there's a large drop off where somebody could potentially crash a bicycle or roll an ankle there. So we've got a proposal in there to do something creative to create a raised bed over on that side, because we're not going to be able to grow grass and put soil in there and keep it without eroding over there. So I think we can buttress that with some stones and create a bed and a garden along there. And then also the fencing on the backside that keeps the soccer balls from running down into that big drainage ditch is starting to fall apart. So part of that proposal is in there to replace that as well and get that looking nice. So yeah, if anybody has any questions on the proposals or anything that's going on in the district as far as the landscaping and the parks, I'd be happy to answer those. But everything's primed and ready for spring, including myself.
I don't think any other questions? Mr. Gardner? No? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
See you later.
Okay, so, do you have any old business? Okay, then let's move on to new business. We've already approved the audit. Next is authorizing the filing for the district's audit report for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2021, with the Texas Commission of Environmental. Something's missing there.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So I assume we need a motion to authorize the filing of the district audit report. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Director Barnes has made the motion to authorize the filing of the district audit report. Do I have a second? Okay.
I'll second.
Director Stemko seconds. All in favor of the authorization of filing? Perfect, unanimous. And that is done. Next on the agenda is under new business easement between the district and Southwestern Bell Telephone Company doing business as AT&T Texas.
AT&T approached the MUD asking for an easement, a utility easement, to install fiber in one of the district's green belts. This area that you see on the schematic, that is off Mountain Mist, off Mountain Mist in that very rugged area of the green belt over there. That land is not able to be developed. There's no way that we could put parks or anything over there too close to a karst area that's there. But the easement that they requested was a 15-foot easement that will run outside 3 homeowners' property lines. I basically, kind of talked with them, negotiated with them, and really what they need is a 5-foot easement that will literally run right at the fence line. There's no issue with the karst. We're still far enough away from that. This would be a huge benefit to those homeowners so that they're not being bored in their backyard. We don't lose anything other than We're letting them have the right to have their facilities there, that piece of fiber, which is kind of a dirty word to say AT&T anymore right now. But in this case, this is a good thing for the homeowners. The district isn't losing anything. And this is a very normal, easement request that utilities do make one to another depending on, you know, the needs. So I would recommend that we do allow that easement there for numerous reasons, but I am more than willing to answer any questions that y'all have about it. Zach has looked at the document. There's a couple of corrections that we'll need to make on it. So, whatever questions y'all have.
Okay, so tell me again, so you said it's off of Mountain Mist?
Mm-hmm. There's that one trail entrance that sort of goes in between houses. It's just kind of to get to the walking path to the trail. And it's behind the 3 houses that are to the right if you're standing there at that curb line. So it'd be right behind that property line. Do y'all have that little drawing that they sent? Yeah, that's where it would be. And it would be, they would make sure that they're not on the homeowner's property. You know, fences sometimes can shift a foot here or there, but they'll make sure that they're not on homeowner's property, but they stay as close to the homeowner's property line as feasible for 5 feet.
Is there going to be, are we gonna get any kind of compensation for this?
In the document that I gave to each of you, there is a nominal $10 fee. The MUD can basically ask what it wants. This is very typical of what occurs when they're not asking for actually a piece of land that they would then control and, what's the word I'm looking for? Develop. This is purely underground utilities. The Fernbluff MUD has easements on neighboring properties. We have a wastewater easement across the Old Stalls property as it goes down to Harryman. We have an easement, at least one easement with Brushy Creek MUD. It's just, that's kind of the nature of utilities. Sometimes, because we all like water, we all like internet, we all like sewer, so they have to be able to install them, I guess is the best way to
So
put it.
my understanding as far as this easement request is, basically they've been tearing up our neighborhoods for the past several months. And now they're actually requesting the chance to.
Well, that's because they don't currently have an easement there. And as their engineers looked at it, they realized that construction-wise, scheduling-wise, damage-wise, it would be more beneficial, let me put it that way, more beneficial to skirt the edge of the MUD property there rather than the homeowners. I'll be happy to talk about AT&T right now. I mean, I can, no big fan of the construction that occurred years ago, no big fan of the construction now. But every piece of property in this district has utility easements for precisely these reasons. There have to be easements for electricity, for gas, for water, for sewer. There have to be easements for needed infrastructure. I too am very concerned about all of the construction equipment that's all over the Fernbluff neighborhood. It's terrible. We talk to them all the time. And I'm not passing the buck when I say this, but we don't own the roads. We have absolutely no say-so on the roads. We have tried, as they've broken lines, broken sewer lines, to have conversations that the MUD is hoping you, AT&T, are gonna make our residents whole. We need you to be cautious. We're doing what we can do, but quite frankly, we have no power in this at all. I mean, and Zach will legally, they have the right to do what they do. Now, as far as the streets, I'm just gonna say, as we see this, and they are jamming things up, they're not gonna stop work at 3 o'clock every afternoon for the school kids. They're just not gonna do that. But if they're causing a traffic jam or whatever out there, call 911. That is a law enforcement issue, and that's my best. Call us, we'll contact the sheriff's department. I'm just saying that unfortunately, and I really mean that unfortunately, because my backyard's gonna be dug up too. They have the right to be there. That's not a very good answer, is it?
You know, maybe, I completely understand that we don't have much in the ability to negotiate with them or anything, but perhaps it is worth mentioning, because I have to agree, I was driving in the neighborhood and literally like, okay, how am I gonna get around that? I nearly called you and said, is there an emergency here? Because I just couldn't get down the street.
No, that's exactly right. And, you know, my hope is that we're all hyper aware that these trucks are there, that, you know, they've been there for so very long. Supposedly they were gonna be done, I think, at the end of next month. I don't know that. I have a feeling that it's probably gonna go longer. We have one crew that works for AT&T. It's not our crew, but there's one crew that seems to be a lot more organized, is that a good way to put it, than the other crew. And we talk to them all the time, but we just sort of get this, you know, we got it. Yeah, we hear you. They've been responsive when they have hit, let me put it this way. They're getting better about being responsive when they hit a water line or a sewer line, contacting us immediately, because that's a direct effect to that homeowner. But it's a huge challenge. We're not the only community this is happening to. I know that's not gonna make anybody feel better, but this is all over the place. When Google did a South Austin neighborhood, what was it, 2 years ago? First year of COVID, I think it was 2019. It was all over everything of what a mess and what a disaster in their neighborhood. It's unfortunately the nature of the beast. And this is a pretty big beast.
Well, it sounds to me like if they have the ability to do this, it's gonna help at least 3 homeowners not be disrupted, and, we don't have anything to lose. It's on the back side of the park?
It's, yes, on the outside, yes, it's not anywhere near any of the playscape areas or anything like that. It is in an undeveloped area of the park.
It sounds like, you know, I mean, if we don't do this, they could just tear up their backyards and still have that legally, right? Because they have the easement.
That is exactly right.
So I certainly don't wanna force that to happen, in my opinion, right? So, and, you know, I don't think we have any leverage because, you know, if we ask them for $1,000, they're gonna tear up the neighbors' yards. It's heck of you guys, right? So.
Just in my conversation with the gentleman at AT&T, it was as a result of all of the complaints they're getting, Hector, all of the complaints that they're getting. Their engineers then looked at the district as a whole to see where they could possibly move things, make it different, and this happened to be one that they could do in that Greenbelt area.
Okay. Any other comments, questions from the board?
So I've got one more question. So Zach, so let's say that we grant this easement to them and they still, especially on those three homes that are gonna be affected, let's say they tear up property or they do anything, you know, they tear up their fence, or, because we're talking like big equipment that is still gonna have to get back there. So I guess my question is, what, legally speaking, what is the benefit of us granting this easement?
Well, it's precisely like Mark said, and it's really not even a legal issue, it's more of a practicality, you know, it's the mud, letting them go in and establish a new easement rather than tearing down fences and imposing on your constituents who live there, they'll be served by that line.
I think, I had a conversation with Jamie earlier, and we talked about the fact that if they do knock down the fence, and it's to the homeowner, the AT&T, not, you know, we don't get involved in that. All we're doing is allowing them the space, you know, that 5-foot easement to do their work, and if they do damage anyway, then it's, you know, it's between the homeowner and AT&T to resolve that. Did I get that right?
That is right, and as far as access, they'll be able to access from that, trail access. And we will put some language in there that should any damage occur to district property, that it will be made whole. That's the best I think we can do.
And that is standard language that you'll see in an easement, you know, whoever the grantee's gonna be, they got the right to go in there and, you know, do whatever the purpose of the easement is, but you'll always see language in there that says they have to make it, bring it back to its original condition, within a reasonable amount of time.
So I guess one more just clarifying question that I've got, so, so basically it is the belief of this board, or I don't wanna generalize that. It is our belief that if we don't grant this easement, they're probably gonna go into those homeowners' yards and tear up their yards. Is that what okay,
Yeah, that's
Right.
pretty much the way I see it.
so it's either their yards or
Or our 5-foot
our 5-foot.
territory, right, it's not really playing a role in.
Well, that's right, and we've had several residents, you know, call and they're asking me, well, why couldn't they have gone, you know, to that corner house rather than coming to this corner house? A lot of it has to do with what's already there, how they have to connect to what's there, and then where they have to put new infrastructure. It's not they're just being willy-nilly, I'm not an engineer, I'll assure you, but I'm saying there is a method to the madness that unfortunately they can't just make big changes. So they have to be in that area to connect everything that they need to do.
I've learned they do whatever is the cheapest for them. So, I mean, they literally might stop 5 feet from where you need, and you have to pay for the additional 5 feet in some locations. Cause they're like, no, we can't do that, this is what we allow.
I won't disagree with you.
And Kevin, I will say that we have, staff has intervened in behalf of the residents. I mean, we get phone calls and we're out there, and just about every situation we've heard on, you know, problem to repair. So, yeah, if we get a phone call from our residents, anything regarding that, we're out there and we're basically leaning on them to get it done, you know, get the repair done, get it done quickly and efficiently, and, you know, to our standard, not just a, you know, bubble gum and baling wire kind of repair to mud standards, so. If that makes you feel any better.
As long as we're not talking bubble gum and baling wire, or a little bit of duct tape to hold it together, then.
Not in my house. Just saying.
All right, well, do we have a motion to accept this,
I'll make a motion to approve the easement request.
Can I respectfully
Sure.
request that your motion
Absolutely.
also include, that it be subject to us correcting some of the typos and legal verifying the description of the property?
That, and making sure what Jamie said, that they'll be held accountable for any damage and repairs.
property? Motion is made, we have a second? I'll second it. So we have a second, so, all in favor? Okay, unanimously passed. Thank you, everybody. All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda is, discuss matters related to the May 7th, 2022 director's election. It's the supplemental agenda.
You actually already took care of that whenever you did the, no, I'm sorry, that was all, sorry, different meeting.
So if you just wanna turn
Came from
to
another meeting,
page
my
4
apologies.
is your supplemental agenda, and that's where you'll just be calling your, election, and the order calling your election is in your board packet on page 32.
So the agenda is page 4,
That's the supplemental.
supplemental notice of meeting. So do we have to read this, or?
No,
Okay.
we just post it separately, that way all your election stuff has to be in English and Spanish, and that way it's posted.
Gotcha. Okay, so now we're moving to page 34. Alright, so, stating the records.
Seems like it started early.
Yeah,
It did start earlier, it's on page 32.
alright. Okay, so, we have the, an order by the Board of Directors of Fernbluff Municipal Utility District calling directors election to be held within set district, providing for the conduct and the giving of notice of said election and containing provisions necessary and incidental to the purposes hereof, providing voting dates, times, locations, providing for cancellation of the election under certain circumstances, and providing for an open meeting, providing findings of fact. You have to read this whole thing?
No, sir.
Okay. So you gotta give everybody a feel for what we're looking at here.
So this is just a standard, election order, it's very similar to one y'all adopted in years past. The only thing that should change in there, would be if there's locations, times, or something like that, that the county has changed on their end. But otherwise, there's no substantive difference than what y'all have adopted in the past.
Alright, and then this needs to be approved,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I guess we're looking for a motion to approve this order by the Board of Directors for the election.
Make that motion.
Motion is so made by Director Barnes. We have a second.
Second.
Director Stemko has seconded it. All in favor? And it's approved unanimously. Right, so this is the contract, right?
Yeah, you can go back, on your main agenda to 9A.
And actually, you don't have a contract with Williamson County, they're not gonna provide the contract until the date has passed where, the election can be
Gotcha,
conducted.
okay.
So it'll be on your next agenda as well.
Okay, so I can put that one aside.
You can, and next 9B, I can just tell you that, basically what you're gonna, be doing is approving, McGinnis as the agent with the secretary to maintain your mandatory, election office hours, which is 3 hours.
3 hours a day, for 3 days a week or something like that.
Well, for, during your regular business hours, 3 hours a day, but it's from March through June.
Okay.
So unless the secretary wants to maintain it.
No, I read it. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to collate it all, you know. Sometimes it goes in one ear out the other. Okay, so, what do we need to do with this? We need another motion on this, or that's just? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we need a motion to designate the agents for secretary to the board to maintain mandatory election office hours. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a second by Director Barnes. All in favor? And we have unanimous agreement on that, so it's approved.
So Suzanne, a real quick question, so after the deadline is passed, is that when Williamson County is going to say this is where the election is being held, or what kind of time frame are we looking at for that?
I think that was listed, wasn't it? I thought there was a date in there, I'm trying to think.
No,
There's
so.
the date, just not.
No, so that's, we're just talking about the contract, so you're gonna contract with Williamson County to conduct your election. And they just sent me an email, like all my other counties that we work with, they've already sent us the contract over. Williamson County said, we're not doing that until after the date that people can file to be on the ballot. So as soon as that happens, they'll provide us a contract and you'll contract with them at your next meeting. It's not gonna hold up any other process in your election.
Okay.
So you'll just be moving forward with all they'll provide me certain deadlines, and you will be having a contested election, I'm sure as most of you realize. So there'll be, certain, deadlines that we'll have to meet, certain postings that will be made, before the actual election date.
Okay. So I think we're moving on to, item 10, Williamson County Road and Bridges. Bridge.
I really don't have any updates about that.
All right, moving on to, the Weapon District Consultant Committee matters and possible action items, landscape maintenance. We've, Mr. Gardner was here, is there anything else?
The two proposals that are in your packet, the Keyscape mulch, frankly, we really don't have an issue, a choice with this. There's state mandated safety features that we have to meet. We have to replace this kitty mulch, it's just part of having parks. Their price is very, very similar to last year, so they're being very fair with that. The second one is Fernbluff Park, and we've talked about this before. I think we talked a bit about it last month, I can't remember what month it was, but that's that huge drainage ditch that is to the back of where the playground equipment is, plus the soccer field goes this way. Well, there's a trail that runs along here. This area at the top of the drainage ditch, that's where it's just eroding so badly. A child on a bike with the gravel trail that we have there, there's drop-off areas and such. If she were to hit that fence because it's so rotten, he will go into the drainage ditch. So this really is a safety issue that we need to do. We talked about replacing this fence back in late 2019. COVID hit, and a lot of things just sort of got left by the wayside as we were just trying to keep up with everything. But Fernbluff Park is a safety issue, as well as the playscape mulch. We have to do that every year.
What's the linear footage of this? How long is this fence?
Oh, about 40 feet maybe? But it's tall.
Yeah, and it has to be tall, because of the balls that come off the soccer field. It's not 8 foot tall or anything, but it needs to be tall enough to where a child that runs is not gonna flip over the top of the fence.
Right.
They'll hit the fence. I
There's
keep
no
saying he,
proposal
I
yet.
don't know why I don't say she, yeah.
What are the materials of the fence?
Yeah, it's on page 40.
Page 40, yeah.
So, and this is a metal fence?
It's
Or
gonna be
wood?
metal post,
Metal posts.
and then it will be wood fencing with the post. We have a design right now. Once the board approves this, we'll work within the guidelines that we have. But the fence also has to do this weird turn, okay? So unfortunately, materials are hard to find right now. We will find the very best materials that we can. This fence has lasted probably 20 years or more. But it is definitely degrading badly. So it'll be prettier than what the fence we have right now.
And is that fence that's gonna be up against some residents?
No,
No, it's not?
no, it's in Fernbluff Park proper.
Okay.
Think about the sand volleyball court. If you go straight forward, that's where the big drainage ditch is. So the trail comes, from the street, and then it curves at the top of that ditch. So it will start there and then go all along, past the soccer field. We've had a real problem there just with district, internet, security cameras, the wires that are there, they've got to be in that area. So we're gonna fix that as we do this.
So this it talks about 20 metal fence panels, are those what the fence is actually gonna be?
Yes, with some wood features, yes.
Obviously, 2x4s are probably hold it up, right?
I'll make it 160 feet, so, roughly. Oh, sorry.
So this is not just a picket fence, this is
No.
much more involved.
No.
That's why the price is a little
No,
higher.
that's exactly, and it needs to be because of the safety issue there, because of that drainage.
Understood.
I mean, we can't just put up some, dark wire. No, that would not be good.
Okay. So there were two proposals here, right, from
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Gardner, there was the Fernbluff, the Playscape one, and the fence, erosion along sidewalk near drainage area as well.
Now, I've got another quick question. So
Mhm.
the proposal for the playscape mulch, so since that is over 15,000, are we required to?
25,000.
25,
We're
okay.
gonna have to bid it
Yes,
out.
sir.
Okay. And you feel these prices that he's quoted are reasonable? Jenny?
They're actually very fair.
They're very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, do we wanna,
Yes, sir, we still got through it. Everything will just have to be.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
well, I don't think we wanna wait on these. Does somebody wanna make a motion, or?
I'll make that motion.
So we have a motion to approve the two proposals from Texas Lawn and Garden. Director Barnes, make a motion, Director Stemper. Okay, seconded, all in favor? And we do have unanimous approval of these proposals. All right, let's see, back. All right, we did the landscape, general management, maintenance and operations. Jamie?
If you don't have a written report in there, obviously last week was a challenge. I will say that we did not have the damage either in the district or with our residents with this high storm that we did last year. Thank goodness. We did have some residents suffer frozen pipes and such, and I'll be working with them as we move forward for any water that was lost. But we didn't have near the number that we had last year, so that was good.
And while you're on that topic, I just
Yeah.
wanted to thank you and the staff for helping Oak Brook with, making sure that our pool didn't freeze on us. So you guys were great. Thank you for coming out and helping us out, and making sure that we weren't gonna get any damage, and we didn't.
Oh, that's really good. We've got a really great staff, and I will say that the 2 days before we knew the winter storm was coming, we had already winterized. And our crew, they were out making sure, double and triple checking that we were doing everything we could do. Again, we had no disruption in water at all. It was just smooth as silk. So I'm just gonna right here publicly tell you, and the guys were amazing. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Trying to think what else there is. Page 39. Hold on 1 second, there was one thing I wanted to let y'all know of. You know what, I think that's it, that's pretty much what I have, yeah. The community center is fully open, operationally, we're fine. We do have a lot of people calling up for weddings, you know, but center's working pretty much back to normal,
I'm
no issues.
sure graduation party is going to be getting some phone calls soon too.
I think we're already full for May, aren't we, Cindy? We might have one or two if they'll take a Sunday rather than a Saturday, but yeah. I mean, people not being able to celebrate these big events, especially in kids' lives for the last couple of years, they're really stepping up and wanting to, you know, get out there and, do their thing.
Okay, so, budget committee, anything to report?
Nothing really to report, still continuing conservative spending. That is really the main reason why I went ahead and made that motion for the landscape stuff. 35,000 for the landscape stuff is really considerable considering that, we have been under budget this month by considerable motion, so, kudos to the staff as far as the spending goes, so thank you for that.
Can I toss a couple things out for operations
Oh, yeah, we were going there
before we
next.
go too far?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you wanna back up?
Just half a step. Emergency preparedness plan required to be submitted by March 30th or whatever that date is. We're submitted, we've done everything we needed to do federally and statewide, so we're covered with that, but, kind of blending into the budget reporting, I just wanna let the board know that, we will be, putting out for a request for proposals for the wastewater line cleaning and televising. That's a 5-year deal, that's a required, TCEQ and Edwards Aquifer, so, so last time we did it was 5 years ago, and it's a 5-year cycle, and 2022 is the year to get it done again, so. Just wanna let the board know that we'll be putting out requests for proposals, and, next couple months maybe, we'll have some numbers for you, I said, we just wanna give you a heads up. It's coming,
Appreciate that.
absolutely, all I have.
Speaking of, since we do that every 5 years, do we actually plan for it in a budget?
We do.
I figured you did. I wanted to ask.
No, that's perfectly,
I feel like I do my job.
yeah, absolutely, yes, we do. Years ago, we started, budgeting, a set amount every year, so that when that 5-year comes, we already have that money in reserves, it's all good, so, yeah. You're welcome.
All right, roads committee. Probably had nothing else, did you?
I don't.
And I don't. Parks and Recreation, directors, Tiber has departed, so I think we'll skip over that unless anybody else has anything to say on that. The District Community Center Committee, any reports on that?
We're all good. I'm just gonna bring this up so we can start thinking about it. The construction of this building, over the years, we've just found some issues. It's construction or whatever. The biggest issue are our exterior doors. They're wood with, I'm not sure what that product is, but we have replaced, repaired, done just about everything we can do with these exterior doors. And they weren't the right choice. I'm just gonna put it out there. They warp, the moisture gets to them, they rot. Sometime in the next year, I would like to consider doing metal doors on all of our exterior. As you leave tonight, push the middle of the 2 doors at our entrance. That whole center section will move. I really probably shouldn't be saying this out here. We do have a very good security system. I'm just saying that we're at the limit of what repair can be done with these doors. It would be very expensive, I realize that, but it's, in my estimation, foolish to go back in and try and do this wood like this. That's kinda why you see in, most facilities, they have metal frames, metal doors, because it doesn't, especially in Texas, it doesn't warp, it doesn't, the weather doesn't affect it the way it does these wood doors. But I just wanna put that little bug in your ear that we're having some serious issues with our doors. They look beautiful, it's just, they're not terribly functional, especially when we've got events that are 125 people, and they're coming in and they're slamming them. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast.
So this door is the same? Okay, so the material is a wood, with a.
It's a wood
with
frame.
A clad, some kind of clad.
What is that called? When one of our doors, the frame, the trim on the outside, we thought it was just wood, and it's some kind of fiberglass.
Like an MDF or,
It's, no, it's not even wood that's on the inside, it's just painted. Painted fiberglass.
So my suggestion would be to start looking at getting some quotes, given how long it takes to get materials and help in, and then bring it to a future meeting and let us talk about it some more.
We'll be happy to do that. All of the windows are kind of the same, construction. Y'all know that we've had serious problems with water incursion in this building. I mean, if we get a big rainstorm and it comes from a particular direction, we'll have a huge puddle at that back door, and the entry as well. You know, we've done maintenance-wise and repair-wise, pretty much everything we can do. We probably just need to start looking at a permanent solution for this.
Okay,
Okay.
well, so noted. So if you want to start exploring options, bring it back to us
Okay.
for a look. Then we can figure out where it fits in the budget.
Right.
Let's see, deed restriction committee, report, nothing, right? Security committee, that's also Director Tiber, I don't know if you left any notes, I think so. Communications, I guess two things, the website's still not, the new website's still not live yet, is it?
It is not, it is not.
Okay, and, the other thing, was, I sent you an outline for a president's letter, I don't know if you saw it yet.
I did see it, I'm just,
You're busy.
I always hate to say that, it's like I'm up to my ears, but, it's gonna get a little better in the next couple of months, I think.
If you wanna throw it back at me with the things, anything you think needs to be added.
Okay.
What I can write, I will write, right, and then
Okay.
pass it back to you.
I think George was gonna add some things too. Okay, yes.
Item number 12, attorney's report.
I don't have anything outside of the items we've already discussed, Mr. President.
Right. Ooh, that sounds good. Next on the agenda is our next meeting date, which is scheduled for March 8th. I think I'll be around. I think I leave 2 days later. Back to Hawaii, I'm afraid.
Oh, dear.
It's so hard for you.
Suzanne, you did that just so sorry for you.
In that case, are there any future agenda items that we need to add before, we, adjourn? Okay? Okay, then, what time is it? Watch this stop.
Motion to adjourn.
7:01.
Thank you, I almost forgot. Motion to adjourn, second?
Second.
We got a second. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Considering we're